The rain poured heavily on the dark streets of Chicago, transforming the pavement into a mirror reflecting the flickering neon lights. A loud bang echoed from the damp alley, accompanied by the acrid smell of gunpowder and fresh blood. Ethan Black emerged from the shadows, his tall frame agile like a ghost. His right arm, a high-tech prosthetic, a gift from the CIA, glinting under the streetlight. He had just taken down 2 guards, their bodies lying motionless in a puddle. But his heart did not flutter. This was just the first step in the nightmare he had dragged himself into. Everything began a few hours ago when Ethan received a call from an unknown number. The voice of the woman on the line trembled. "Your ex-wife, Lisa, is dead. They killed her at her home. And Sophia, your daughter, they have taken her." Ethan tightened his grip on the phone, memories flooding back like a tide. Lisa, the woman he had once loved deeply, had left him after a failed mission in Russia 10 years ago. And Sophia, the 8-year-old daughter he had only seen in photographs, had now become a hostage. Who were they? He knew all too well Dmitry Petrov, the Russian crime lord, once an ally, but had betrayed him in a biological weapons deal. Dmitry had framed Ethan as a traitor, causing the CIA to abandon him. Living in hiding like a ghost, Ethan did not wait. He plunged into the rainy night, driving the old car to the warehouse district on the outskirts of Chicago, where old intelligence suggested Dmitry's men were meeting. The cold wind whipped against his face through the broken window, but the pain of loss made him more alert than ever. Why now, he wondered. His right arm, fitted with titanium and a strength-enhancing system, trembling slightly as if ready to crush anything. The past with Dmitry was a deep scar. During the mission in Moscow, Dmitry had sold information to the enemy, leading to the death of his teammates. Now, he was using Sophia to lure him out, perhaps to settle old scores or to conceal a larger plot. The car stopped 100 meters from the warehouse. Ethan turned off the headlights, blending into the darkness. The warehouse was an old building, with cracked concrete walls and rusty iron doors. Through the night vision binoculars, he saw 4 of Dmitry's henchmen, dressed in black leather, smoking and keeping watch. One burly man, his face scarred, held an AK-47, laughing and saying something about the girl. Ethan's heart tightened. They were talking about Sophia. Unable to wait any longer, he crept closer, his steps as light as a wildcat's. The first guard did not have time to react. Ethan sprang from the shadows, his right hand striking hard into the man's throat, the sound of breaking bones echoing sharply. The man fell without a sound. The second guard turned around, drawing a dagger. But Ethan was faster. He dodged the blade, using his left elbow to strike the man's face, then delivered a roundhouse kick to his chest, sending him crashing into the wall. Blood sprayed from his nose. Mixing with the rain, the other 2 inside the warehouse heard the commotion and rushed out with pistols. "Who's there?" one shouted, firing a shot. The bullet grazed Ethan's shoulder, leaving a burn mark. But he remained undeterred. He rolled to avoid, springing up like a coil, his prosthetic right arm smashing hard into the nearest man's gun. The weapon shattered, accompanied by the sound of a broken wrist. The other man fired again, but Ethan charged forward, locking his arm around the man's neck, tightening his grip. "Tell me, where is Sophia?" he growled, his voice low like thunder. The henchman panicked, his face turning pale. "In Mexico, with the boss. Dmitry wants you to come there." Ethan released him, letting him collapse, then searched the warehouse. On a rotting wooden table, he found an old laptop, the screen displaying a map and an encrypted message: "Deliver biological weapons to Mexico City. The hostage is the key." Ethan's heart raced. Biological weapons. Dimitri's old scheme was resurfacing. He not only wanted revenge but was also using Sophia to manipulate a major deal, perhaps threatening national security. He copied the data onto a USB drive, then set the warehouse ablaze with a homemade grenade. Flames erupted, consuming everything as he dashed to the car. The rain still pouring down. The road to Mexico would be dangerous, but he had no choice. "Sophia, I'm coming," he whispered, hitting the gas and plunging into the dark night. But before disappearing into the darkness, Ethan stopped by a shabby roadside bar. He needed information from an old ally, a hacker named Mike, who had once worked for the CIA. Mike sat in a dark corner, his face pale upon seeing Ethan. "You're crazy. Dimitri has eyes and ears everywhere. He sent Victor Slade, a cold-blooded assassin, to hunt you down." Ethan clenched his fists. "Victor, the one who killed Lisa?" Mike nodded, handing him a file, a photo of Victor with a chiseled face, cold blue eyes, and gang signs of the Russian mob. "He's at the Mexico border, waiting for you." Ethan stood up, a wave of rage flooding over him. He envisioned Sophia, the innocent girl caught in this whirlwind, and his heart ached. Would she recognize him as her father, or had Dimitri filled her head with lies? The question hung in the air. Intensifying the tension, he dashed out into the rain, the car speeding toward the border. The hunt had only just begun, and more blood would be shed. Which area are you listening to this story from? And what time is it where you are right now? Leave a comment below, so I know you are still healthy and fully focused on this story. My dear friend, we will continue right after this. From the clues in Chicago, Ethan Black threw himself into a journey across the border to Mexico, where Dmitry Petrov ran a biological weapons smuggling operation. He confronted the henchman at a border checkpoint, rescuing an important witness who had worked for Dmitry. The hand-to-hand combat and gunfire left him slightly injured, but he escaped, leading to a tense car chase through the barren desert under an unexpected downpour. The US-Mexico border appeared under the torrential rain, turning the desert into a sea of mud. Ethan drove the old truck he had taken from the warehouse in Chicago, the engine roaring like a wild beast. The dim headlights illuminated the thorny bushes, and the cold wind carried the smell of wet earth into the cabin. He gripped the steering wheel tightly, his titanium arm trembling slightly, not from fear, but from adrenaline surging through him. "Sophia is in Mexico City," he muttered, picturing her face from old photographs. But to get there, he had to get past the checkpoint, a trap set by Dmitry, where his men controlled everything. The truck stopped 100 meters from the checkpoint. Through the foggy windshield, Ethan saw 3 guards, wearing fake uniforms, armed with rifles and flashlights. One burly man, with a full beard, was checking the papers of another truck. Ethan knew they were Dimitri's men, bribed to hunt him down. Unable to wait, he turned off the headlights, sneaked out of the car, blending into the darkness. The rain pattered on his shoulders, soaking his black leather jacket. The first guard was oblivious. Ethan approached from behind, his left hand locking around the man's neck, tightening until his body went limp. He fell into the mud, the flashlight rolling and illuminating a streak of thin blood. The second guard turned around, drawing a shiny dagger. Shouting, "Damn gringo," he charged forward, the blade aimed at Ethan's throat. But Ethan was faster, sidestepping, using his titanium elbow to strike the man's wrist. The sound of breaking bones echoed sharply, the dagger flying away. The henchman snarled, throwing a hook punch, but Ethan blocked it with his prosthetic arm, then retaliated with a straight kick to the chest. The man flew backward into the barbed wire fence, blood spraying from his mouth. The noise attracted the third guard, who came running out from the lookout shack with a rifle. He fired a quick burst, the sound echoing in the rain. Ethan rolled to avoid, mud splattering on his face. Bullets embedded into the ground, creating small smoking craters. He sprang up like a coil, charging at the shooter, his titanium fist smashing into the man's jaw. Teeth shattered and fell. The man collapsed. But before he passed out, he managed to hit the alarm button. The siren blared, shattering the silence of the desert. Ethan rushed into the lookout shack, searching quickly. On a rotting wooden table, he saw a bound prisoner, a gaunt man, his face bruised, eyes wide with fear. "Who are you?" Ethan asked, cutting the ropes with the blade hidden in his titanium hand. The man gasped, "I'm Carlos. I used to be an accountant for Dimitri. They took me because I knew about the biological weapons. He is transporting them to Mexico City to sell to terrorists. Your daughter, Sophia, is being held at an international school downtown, used as bait to lure you." Ethan nodded, his heart tightening. Carlos was an important witness. He had to save him for more information. But time was not on his side. The roar of engines approached from afar, 2 black SUVs barreling toward him, their headlights glaring through the rain. Dimitri's henchmen, about 6 of them, jumped out, pistols and rifles at the ready. "Capture him alive," one shouted, firing repeatedly. Ethan pulled Carlos and ran toward the truck, bullets whizzing past his ear, leaving a burning sting. He jumped into the driver's seat, started the engine, and floored the gas. The truck sped through the checkpoint, crashing through the barrier, mud flying everywhere. The chase began. The 2 SUVs were hot on his tail, their headlights shining directly into the rearview mirror. The rain made the road slick, turning the desert into a hellish quagmire. Ethan swerved sharply, dodging a volley of bullets from the lead SUV. Carlos covered his head, shouting, "Victor Slade is leading them. He's Dimitri's top assassin." Cold-blooded as a demon, Ethan gritted his teeth. "Victor, the one who killed Lisa." He turned, his titanium arm rolling down the window, pulling out the pistol he had taken from the guard, firing twice. The first shot hit the SUV's tire, causing it to sway. The second pierced the windshield, taking down the driver. The SUV flipped over, rolling several times in the mud. But the second SUV stayed on him. A man from the passenger seat leaned out, holding a rifle, taking aim. The bullet struck the back of the truck, causing it to shake. Ethan felt an old wound in his shoulder bleed, but he did not stop. He sharply turned onto a narrow desert road, thorny bushes scraping the side of the truck. "Hold on tight," he shouted to Carlos. The pursuing SUV slowed down in the muddy terrain, seizing the opportunity. Ethan abruptly stopped the truck, jumped out, and hid behind a rock. The SUV driver halted, and 3 henchmen rushed out, guns pointed into the darkness. Ethan waited, his heart calm. The first man stepped closer, and he sprang out, his titanium fist smashing into the man's chest, ribs cracking. The second man turned, swinging a knife, but Ethan dodged, delivering a high kick to his chin, sending him sprawling into the mud. The third man fired, the bullet grazing Ethan's thigh, causing a sharp pain. Ethan roared, lunging forward, locking the man's arm, twisting his wrist backward, then smashing his head into the truck door. The remaining driver tried to flee, but Ethan threw a knife that struck his leg, causing him to collapse. Carlos ran out, his face pale. "You saved me, but they will send more." Ethan nodded, checking his wounds, a scratch on his thigh, blood soaking through his pants. He pulled the driver up, pressing the gun to his head. "Tell me, where is Victor Slade?" The man smirked. "He's waiting in Mexico City. Boss Dimitri knows you will come to save the girl. Ethan knocked him unconscious, then got into the truck with Carlos. The vehicle sped into the rainy night, heading toward Mexico City. But he knew the chase was not over. Victor was lurking, and Sofia was waiting. Would he arrive in time before Dimitri's scheme exploded? The question hung heavily in the air. The rain still pouring down. The neon lights flickered on the bustling streets of Mexico City, turning the night into a chaotic, colorful painting. Ethan Black drove the truck through the crowded traffic. The rain had stopped, but the air was still heavy with the smell of exhaust and street food. Beside him, Carlos sat huddled, his face pale after the chase in the desert. "We need to hide," Carlos whispered, his hands trembling as he wiped the sweat off his brow. Ethan nodded, his eyes scanning the rearview mirror. No sign of Victor Slade or Dmitri Petrov's henchmen, but he knew they were somewhere, waiting for an opportunity. They stopped the truck in a dark alley, outside a shabby bar with a flickering sign that read El Diablo. Ethan pulled Carlos inside, the air thick with the smell of tequila and cigarette smoke. In a dark corner, a middle-aged man with silver hair, wearing a wrinkled shirt, was sitting and waiting. It was Javier, an old ally from his CIA days, who had once infiltrated Mexican gangs. Javier stood up, awkwardly embracing Ethan. "Amigo, you're still alive. I heard about Lisa." "Such a pity." Ethan clenched his fists, his titanium arm trembling slightly. "Save your words. I need information about Sofia and Dimitri." They sat at a rotting wooden table. Javier poured drinks, his voice lowered. "Dmitri Petrov is using the girl as a hostage to cover up his biological weapons scheme. He has a secret lab in Mexico City, producing genetically modified viruses to sell to terrorists. Sofia is being held at an international school downtown, which he uses as a front. His bodyguards, led by Victor Slade, are guarding it strictly. He wants to lure you there, to settle old scores from Russia." Ethan listened, his heart tightening. Memories flooded back 10 years ago. In Moscow, Dmitri had betrayed him, selling information that led to the deaths of his teammates. Now he was using Sofia, his own flesh and blood, as a pawn. "I have to save her," Ethan said, his voice cold. Javier nodded, handing him a map. "The school is in a wealthy area, transported by black SUVs. But be careful. Victor is a monster." Ethan did not wait. He left the bar, walking alone through the crowded streets, the smell of tacos and the sound of mariachi music echoing. The school appeared under the yellow streetlights, a modern building with a high fence and cameras everywhere. He hid behind a bush, observing. A black SUV stopped. 2 large bodyguards stepped out, escorting a brown-haired girl with big eyes, Sofia. Ethan's heart raced. She looked so much like Lisa, but her innocent gaze carried a hint of sadness. "My daughter," he whispered, the killing intent rising. He disguised himself as a janitor, wearing a cap, holding a broom as he approached the school gate. "Please let me clean the car," he said in broken Spanish, his voice low and deep. The guard with the rifle growled, "Get lost, old man." But Ethan did not stop. He threw the broom at the man's face, causing him to flinch. In that moment, his titanium arm swung up, striking hard into the wrist. The gun falling to the ground, the second guard drew a knife, lunging forward, the blade glinting under the lights. Ethan dodged, delivering a high kick to the chin, sending the man sprawling into the fence. Sofia screamed, panicking and running into the school. Ethan chased after her, leaping over the fence like a ghost, landing softly. The school was vast, the dark hallways filled with the smell of books and fresh paint. He heard Sofia's footsteps ahead, his heart pounding. "Don't be scared," he whispered. But the girl did not hear. Rushing into an empty classroom, Ethan pushed the door open. Seeing Sophia hiding behind a wooden desk, her eyes wide. "I won't hurt you," he said, his voice rarely gentle, but Sophia did not believe him. She threw a book at him. Screaming, "Help me!" The scream attracted more bodyguards. 3 more rushed in from the back door. Guns drawn. The battle erupted. The first man fired quickly, the bullet embedding into the wall. Dust flying everywhere. Ethan rolled, using the desk as a shield, then lunged forward, his titanium fist smashing into the man's chest. Ribs cracking. The second man swung a dagger, slashing horizontally, but Ethan blocked it with his prosthetic arm. The metal clashing loudly. He delivered a roundhouse kick to the knee, causing the man to buckle, then smashed his head into the desk. The third man pulled out a gun, firing repeatedly, bullets grazing Ethan's shoulder, blood flowing. He roared, jumping onto the desk, diving down, locking the man's neck, tightening until he passed out. Sophia stood frozen, looking at Ethan like a killing machine. He turned, raising his hands. "I am your father." "Sophia, Dmitri lied to you." She shook her head, tears streaming down her face. "You're lying. My father is Dmitri." But Ethan had no time to explain. The sound of police sirens echoed from afar. Someone had raised the alarm. He grabbed Sophia's hand, pulling her toward the back door. Gently but firmly. "Run with me," he shouted. They dashed into the night of Mexico City, leaving the chaotic school behind. The truck was waiting in a nearby alley. Ethan pushed Sophia into the seat, started the engine, and sped through the streets. The girl struggled, "Let me go," but he locked the doors. His eyes focused on the road. The wound in his shoulder throbbed, blood soaking through his shirt. But he endured. "You have to listen to me. Dmitri killed your mother, using you as bait." Sophia fell silent, filled with doubt. Behind them, the blinding headlights. Victor Slade's SUV was in pursuit. The escape had only just begun, and the secret about the biological weapons hung like a ticking time bomb. Would Sophia believe him before it was too late? The blinding headlights from behind shone directly into the rearview mirror, turning the old truck into a moving target amidst the chaotic traffic of Mexico City. Ethan Black tightened his grip on the steering wheel, his titanium arm shaking from the pressure, while Sophia huddled in the passenger seat, her eyes wide with fear and doubt. Behind them, Victor Slade's sleek black SUV sped forward, the engine roar drowning out the surrounding honking. "Hold on!" Ethan shouted, flooring the gas pedal. The truck swerving through the intersection, narrowly missing a passenger bus. Sophia screamed, clutching the seat. "Stop! Who are you really?" Ethan didn't answer immediately. His eyes focused on dodging bullets from the SUV. A series of explosions rang out, bullets tearing through the air, hitting the truck's rear tire, causing it to shake violently. He jerked the wheel, turning into a narrow street filled with shops, the smell of grilled meat and smoky haze engulfing them. Memories flooded back 10 years ago. In Moscow, Dmitry Petrov had betrayed him during a mission to gather intelligence on biological weapons. Dmitry sold out his comrades to climb the ranks of the crime syndicate, framing Ethan as a traitor, costing him everything: his career, Lisa, and now Sophia. "He's not your father," Ethan said, his voice low but firm. "He's using you to lure us, hiding a deadly plot." The SUV was close behind. The driver, a muscular guy with a shaved head, shouted into the radio, "Shoot the tires! Capture the girl, Victor Slade!" Sitting in the passenger seat, his angular face cold, pulled out a rifle and began shooting. A bullet hit the right mirror, shattering the glass. Ethan turned, his titanium hand opening the window, pulling out the pistol he had picked up from school, firing back twice. The first shot hit the SUV's tire, causing it to swerve. The second pierced the windshield. Embedding itself in the driver's shoulder, the SUV lost control, crashing into a streetlight. Smoke billowing up. But the danger wasn't over. A large motorcycle came roaring out from an alley. Victor leaped onto it, his black leather jacket glistening under the neon lights. A pistol in hand, Ethan muttered, tough as nails. He abruptly stopped the truck in front of a bustling night market, pulling Sophia out of the vehicle. "Run," he yelled, leading her through the crowd. The spicy smell of tacos and the sound of salsa music echoing. Victor abandoned the motorcycle, chasing after them, a gleaming dagger in hand. They hid behind a fruit stall, oranges and lemons piled high. Sophia gasped. "Why are they chasing us?" Ethan looked at her, his gaze softening for a moment. "Because we know Dimitri's secret. He is creating a deadly virus to sell to the bad guys. You are the key to keeping him silent." Suddenly, Victor appeared in front of them, the dagger raised, aimed at Ethan's chest. He reacted quickly, his titanium arm blocking the blade. The sound of metal clashing ringing out. Ethan kicked Victor in the stomach, forcing him back a few steps. The stall collapsing. The crowd panicked, screaming and fleeing, leaving a chaotic scene with fruit scattered everywhere. Victor sprang up, smirking. "You're washed up." Black. He unleashed a flurry of martial arts moves, hooks, high kicks, arm locks, as fast as lightning. Ethan dodged a punch, countering with a titanium punch to Victor's chest, sending him crashing into a meat stall, blood spewing from his mouth. The hand-to-hand combat erupted. Victor, a master assassin, swung the dagger repeatedly, the blade grazing Ethan's shoulder, tearing open an old wound. Blood soaking through his shirt, he roared, revealing the hidden blade in his titanium hand, slashing horizontally, leaving a cut on Victor's shirt. Victor dodged, delivering a roundhouse kick to Ethan's injured thigh, causing him to stagger. Flashbacks intertwined. In Russia, Victor was Dimitri's right-hand man, who killed Lisa when she tried to escape with Sophia. "You killed my wife," Ethan growled, lunging at Victor, locking his neck. Squeezing tightly with his titanium strength, he broke free, stabbing a knife into Ethan's hip, blood gushing out. But Ethan endured the pain, delivering a final punch to Victor's jaw, knocking him into a pile of trash. Temporarily unconscious, Sophia screamed from behind, "Watch out!" A henchman of Dimitri charged from the SUV, rifle firing. Ethan pushed Sophia to the ground, rolled to avoid the bullets, then jumped up, kicking the guy in the face, knocking him down. The crowd had fled, leaving the night market in ruins, with flames erupting from the stalls due to the collision. Ethan checked his wounds. Blood flowed from his hip and shoulder, pain burning like fire. He pulled Sophia into a dark alley, hiding in an abandoned warehouse. "I will explain everything," he panted, leaning against the wall, pressing on his wounds. Sophia looked at him, both scared and curious. "Are you really saving me?" The roar of engines echoed outside the warehouse. Ethan knew Victor wasn't down, and Dimitri's henchmen were closing in. He stood up, his titanium arm gleaming in the dark, ready to fight again. But his strength was waning, the wounds draining him. They had to run deeper into the Mexican forest before dawn, where the terrain could provide cover. Would Sophia begin to trust him? Or would her doubts lead to a fatal mistake? The tension hung thick in the air. the fire from the night market still burning, signaling that the battle was far from over. The smell of smoke from the night market clung to their clothes, mingling with the strong scent of blood in the abandoned warehouse. Ethan Black leaned against the cracked concrete wall, his breath heavy, the blood from his hip and shoulder soaking his shirt. His titanium arm trembled slightly. Not from exhaustion, but from the pain spreading like fire. Sophia sat huddled a few steps away, her brown eyes wide, filled with both fear and anger. The engine noise outside had gone silent, but the atmosphere remained heavy. They were closing in. "Listen," Ethan spoke, his voice hoarse but firm. He pulled an old silver ring from his pocket, engraved with the faint letters L and E. "Your mother wore this on our wedding day. Lisa. She never left you." Sophia looked at the ring, her hands trembling as she took it. "You're lying. My father is Dmitri. He raised me, fed me." Her voice trailed off, tears streaming down her cheeks. Ethan took a deep breath, memories flooding back like a knife cutting. 10 years ago, in Moscow, Dmitry Petrov and I were allies. I worked for the CIA. He was an inside source. The biological weapons mission, he betrayed me, killed my teammates, framed me for treason. Lisa tried to get you away from him, but Victor Slade. He paused, his throat choking with bitterness. "He killed your mother right at our doorstep. I was captured, tortured, then escaped. I searched for you for 10 years. Sophia, Dmitri is using you to manipulate, to hide the virus lab in Mexico City." Sophia shook her head, but her gaze wavered. The ring lay snug in her small palm, like a missing piece of the past. "Why are you only coming now?" she whispered. Ethan smiled sadly. "Because I was afraid. Afraid you would end up like your mother, dead because of me." In that moment, the sound of metal clashing echoed outside the door. They had arrived. The warehouse door burst open. 6 mercenaries rushed in, dressed in black, masks covering their faces, rifles and daggers at the ready. "Capture the girl!" one shouted in Spanish. Sophia screamed. Pressing close to Ethan, he stood up, his titanium arm revealing the hidden blade. The faint light from the crack in the door shining on the cold metal. The close-quarters battle erupted instantly. The first man lunged forward, the dagger slicing horizontally. Ethan sidestepped, using his left elbow to strike the guy's throat. The sound of breaking bones was sickening. He fell to the ground. The second man fired his rifle, bullets embedding into the wall behind him, dust flying everywhere. Ethan rolled, ducked low, kicked the guy's knee, then stabbed the titanium blade into his thigh. Blood sprayed. The soldier screamed and collapsed. The remaining 3 surrounded him, one swinging a metal rod aimed at Ethan's head. He blocked it with his titanium arm. The sound of metal clashing was deafening. The rod snapped in 2. He retaliated with a straight punch, shattering the skull of the other guy. Blood splattering on the wall. Sophia hid behind a wooden crate, covering her mouth to stifle her screams. The 4th man stabbed a knife into Ethan's back, the blade sinking deep into his flesh. Pain shot through him, but he turned, locked the guy's wrist, twisting it back. The sound of breaking bones echoed. The knife fell. A knee to the stomach brought him down. The last man, as big as a bear, charged like a whirlwind, delivering a series of hooks. Ethan dodged the first punch, but the second hit his injured shoulder, blood spraying out. He roared, unleashing the full power of his titanium arm. Punching through the thug's chest armor, the sound of ribs cracking echoed. He flew back into the wall, unconscious. The warehouse fell silent again. Only the sound of heavy breathing and the strong smell of blood remained. Ethan knelt down, pressing on the new wound on his back, blood flowing in streams. Sophia ran to him, tears streaming down her face. "You!" "Father." For the first time, she called him that, her voice trembling. He smiled weakly, reaching out to touch her cheek. "I'm fine. Do you believe me now?" She nodded, hugging him tightly despite the blood soaking her shirt. But slow clapping echoed from the door. Victor Slade stepped in, his black leather soaked in blood, his cold blue eyes glinting in the dark. "Touching? Really?" he sneered, pulling out 2 pistols. "But the game isn't over." "Black." Ethan pushed Sophia behind him, standing up despite his body shaking from blood loss. Victor fired. A bullet grazed his ear, embedding itself in the wall. He charged forward, but his strength was spent, barely managing to push his daughter out the back door before Victor blocked the way. "Run." "Sophia, into the woods," Ethan shouted, turning to face the assassin. Victor laughed loudly. "You die here. Then I'll take the girl back to the boss." They charged at each other, but Ethan knew he was at a disadvantage. He had to buy time for Sophia to escape. The rustling of leaves outside, she had run. Victor delivered a kick. Ethan dodged, but a punch to the chest sent him crashing to the floor. Blood filled his mouth. His vision blurred. Sophia shouted from outside the door, "Don't!" But Ethan signaled with his eyes, "Run!" She disappeared into the deep Mexican forest, tears mingling with the night rain. Victor pressed the gun to his head. "It's over." But Ethan smiled faintly, his titanium hand trembling. The blade was still ready. They had to run deeper into the woods, where the treacherous terrain could turn the tide. Would Sophia survive alone? Or would the newfound trust lead her back to save her father? The darkness of the dense forest swallowed everything, leaving only the sound of rustling leaves and the breath of death. The deep Mexican forest swallowed all sound, leaving only the rustling leaves and Ethan Black's heavy breathing. He lay on the damp ground, blood from his back and chest mingling with the mud, his titanium arm still gripping the hidden blade tightly. Victor Slade stood over him, the pistol pressed against his forehead, a sinister smile flickering in the dark. "It's over. Black. The girl will return to Dimitri." Ethan gritted his teeth, his eyes locked onto him. In his mind, the image of Sophia fleeing flashed, the girl, now alone, filled with doubt and fear. He couldn't die here. With the last of his strength, Ethan delivered a surprise kick from below, striking Victor's wrist, sending the gun flying away. He roared, lunging forward with a hook. Ethan rolled to avoid it, standing up despite his body aching as if it were being torn apart. They clashed in the cramped space of the forest, branches whipping at their faces. Victor unleashed a series of martial arts moves, high kicks, chokes as fast as a cheetah. Ethan blocked with his titanium arm, the sound of metal clashing resonating. He countered with a straight punch, hitting Victor in the chest, causing him to stagger, blood spilling from his mouth. "You're weak now," Victor sneered, pulling out a dagger, stabbing repeatedly. The blade grazed Ethan's thigh, blood spraying, but he activated the titanium blade, slashing horizontally, leaving a deep cut on Victor's shoulder. The fight dragged on, both of their breaths heavy. Ethan bought time. Knowing Sophia was running further away, Victor delivered a roundhouse kick, hitting Ethan's injured hip, causing him to buckle. But Ethan jumped up, locking his neck, smashing Victor's head against a tree trunk. The sound of the impact was sickening. He fell down unconscious. Ethan panted, checking his wounds, then dashed into the forest following Sophia's footprints. The smell of damp earth and decaying leaves filled the air. He found her hiding behind a bush, trembling. "Dad." "What about them?" Sophia whispered. For the first time, calling him without hesitation, Ethan embraced her. Warmth filling him amidst the pain. "I'm fine. We have to go. To Spain. Dimitri has a base in Madrid, where he hides the biological weapons. They cross the border at night, using a truck taken from Dimitri's henchmen. After a few days of hiding, they arrived in Spain. The Mediterranean air carrying the scent of salty sea and warm winds, Madrid appeared with its ancient buildings and bustling streets. But for Ethan, this was a new hell. They stopped on the outskirts. The truck out of gas. "Stay here." Ethan ordered Sophia. Stepping out of the truck hidden in a dark alley, the gas station was deserted under the flickering green neon lights. The smell of gasoline overwhelming. He needed fuel to reach Dimitri's base. But his instincts warned of danger. 4 black jeeps sped in, surrounding the gas station. 8 bounty hunters jumped out, wearing armor, holding rifles and daggers, their eyes darting. "Get him," one shouted, firing. Sophia shrank back in the truck, her heart pounding. Ethan rolled behind a gas tank, bullets embedding with a deafening sound. He jumped up, his titanium arm smashing into the tank, causing it to roll towards the thugs, creating chaos. One thug fired a machine gun, but Ethan charged forward, grabbing a shard of broken glass and throwing it at the guy's wrist, causing the gun to fall. The gun and knife battle erupted. Ethan dodged a hail of bullets, kicking the nearest thug in the jaw, sending him crashing into a gas pump. The second thug swung a knife. Slicing horizontally, he blocked it with his titanium arm, breaking the blade, then punched into the chest, bones cracking. The remaining thugs split into groups, 4 firing from a distance, 4 engaging in close combat. Ethan drew the pistol from his belt, firing 3 shots, taking down 2 hiding behind the jeep. The third bullet hitting the shoulder of the machine gunner, blood sprayed. He collapsed, but Victor Slade appeared from a large motorcycle, his black leather glistening. "We meet again." "Black," he growled, pulling out 2 pistols and firing in rapid succession. Ethan used the truck as a shield, bullets embedding into the vehicle. Sophia screamed, "Dad!" "Be careful." One of Dimitri's henchmen stabbed a knife into his back. Ethan turned, blocking the blade, kicking the guy in the stomach, sending him crashing into the gas tank. A small explosion erupted, flames spreading. Victor charged in, delivering martial arts moves, hooks, high kicks, locks. Ethan blocked, countering with a kick to his knee. But Victor dodged, stabbing a knife into Ethan's thigh. Blood spraying. "You're washed up," Victor laughed. Sophia acted. She picked up the fallen gun, trembling as she aimed it at him. "Let my dad go." Victor turned, smirking, raising his gun, but Ethan lunged forward, delivering a titanium punch to his chest, sending Victor flying back. In the chaos, a thug grabbed Sophia, pressing a gun to her head. "Drop your weapon, or the girl dies." Ethan clenched his fists, forced to drop his gun. Victor stood up, ordering to bind Sophia, pushing her into the jeep. "Take her back to Madrid for Dimitri." Sophia struggled, her eyes filled with desperation as she looked at him. Ethan was left amidst the flames, punching the ground with his titanium hand. Cracks spreading, blood dripped from his wounds. But the burning desire for revenge ignited. He picked up the rifle from a fallen enemy, jumped onto Victor's motorcycle, and sped into the night of Madrid. The bar's disguised base awaited him, but the heavy despair loomed. Would he save Sophia in time before Dimitri used her as the final bait? The darkness swallowed everything, leaving only the roar of engines, The bright red neon lights from the sign La Sombra flickered on the ancient streets of Madrid, Spain, turning the night air into a chaotic painting full of sinful colors. Ethan Black stopped the motorcycle 100 meters from the bar, the engine falling silent, leaving a heavy silence only broken by the echo of flamenco music from inside. The wounds on his thigh and hip still bled, but he gritted his teeth, his cold eyes scanning the drunken crowd, entering and exiting the bar. This was Dmitry Petrov's disguised base, where he hid the trafficking of biological weapons. And Sofia, his daughter, was being held in the basement. According to information from Carlos, before they parted at the border, Ethan disguised himself as a liquor dealer, wearing a low-brimmed cap and a leather jacket that concealed his titanium arm. He pushed the door open. The strong smell of tequila mingling with cigarette smoke and human sweat, the bar was packed. A flamenco dancer twisting on the small stage. But he immediately spotted Dimitri's 4 guards. Standing at the corners, hands close to the guns hidden in their jackets, a scar-faced man with a shaved head stared at him. Ethan pretended to order a drink, but his ears were listening. Whispers from the iron door at the end of the hallway. The girl is downstairs. Keep a close watch. His heart tightened. Sofia was nearby. Without waiting long, Ethan staggered as if drunk, heading towards the iron door. Where's the restroom? He slurred. The guard sneered. Get lost. But before the guy could draw his gun, Ethan acted. His titanium arm swung up, punching straight into the man's face. Blood spraying from his nose as he crashed into the wall. The second man raised his rifle, but Ethan spun around, kicking his wrist and making the gun clatter to the ground. The noise drew the attention of the crowd in the bar. The music stopped abruptly, and the 4 guards rushed over, drawing knives and pistols. Ethan jumped over the bar, using it as a shield, glass shattering everywhere, liquor spilling. He picked up a broken bottle, throwing it at the nearest man, causing him to scream and clutch his eye. Ethan charged out, delivering a titan punch to the chest of the second man. Ribs cracking, the third man fired a pistol, the bullet grazing his ear. Blood flowing, he leaned to the side, the hidden blade in his titanium hand flicking out, slicing through the holster strap. A hook kick caught the jaw, and this man fell, the last one, as big as a bear, swung an iron rod, but Ethan blocked it with his titanium arm, the rod snapping in half, then punched him in the stomach, making him double over, gasping for breath. The crowd screamed and scattered, leaving the bar in chaos. Ethan didn't stop, running towards the iron door, kicking it open. The dark staircase led down to the basement, the smell of dampness and chemicals overwhelming, a sign of a secret laboratory. He pulled out a handgun he had picked up, stepping down, each footfall echoing like the heartbeat of death. At the bottom of the stairs, Sofia was tied to a wooden chair, her mouth taped shut, eyes wide with fear. Next to her was Victor Slade, cleaning a bloody dagger, a sinister smile on his face. Welcome to Madrid. Black, Victor said, his voice cold as ice. Do you think you can save the girl Dmitri wants you to witness her death? Ethan tightened his grip on the gun. Let her go, or I'll tear you apart. Victor laughed loudly. The boss's plot is bigger than you think. The biological weapons are not just for sale. He will release the virus in America, using the girl as the final experiment. You betrayed in Russia. Now you will pay. His words revealed a larger conspiracy, not just revenge. Dmitri aimed for large-scale terror. Ethan didn't wait. Firing in quick succession, Victor rolled away, bullets embedding in the wall, dust flying everywhere. He lunged forward, knife raised. The brutal duel began. Victor unleashed a flurry of martial arts strikes, hooks, high kicks, and chokeholds. Ethan blocked with his titanium arm, countering with a kick to Victor's knee, causing him to stagger, but he was quick, stabbing a knife into Ethan's shoulder. Blood gushing out. Sophia struggled, trying to scream through the tape. Ethan regained his composure, flicking out the titanium blade, slashing horizontally, forcing Victor back. They grappled, Victor locking his arms around him, smashing his head into the wall. Blood flowed from Ethan's forehead. He broke free, delivering a punch to Victor's chest, sending him crashing into a chemical barrel. Acid splattering everywhere. Ethan rushed over, cutting the ropes binding Sophia, pulling off the tape. Run! He pushed her up the stairs. But Victor was not down, picking up a gun, firing a shot that grazed his arm. Ethan turned back, charging forward, delivering one last Titan punch to Victor's face, sending him crashing into the wall, unconscious. Sophia stood frozen, watching her father fight like a machine. "Dad." "Let's go," she whispered, her heart now more trusting. They ran up, bursting out of the emergency exit. The sound of police sirens echoed in the distance, mingling with the screams in the bar. Ethan pulled Sophia onto the motorcycle, speeding into the night of Madrid. "Hold on tight," he commanded, blood dripping onto the seat. Sophia clung to him, not resisting, but her heart was still anxious. Behind them, the headlights of a jeep flashed. Dimitri's henchmen were in pursuit. The virus plot in America still loomed. And Victor would wake up. They had to hide in a Madrid alley. But Sophia's trust could change everything. The darkness swallowed the streets, signaling that the chase was not over. Hiding in the dark alley of Madrid, Spain, where the stench of garbage and sewage was overwhelming. Ethan Black checked the wound on his arm. The blood dried into black scabs. The motorcycle stopped behind a stinking dumpster, the engine still warm from the escape from the bar. Sophia sat against the wall, her brown eyes wavering between trust and doubt, her hand gripping her mother's silver ring tightly. The sound of police sirens faded away, but the atmosphere was still tense like a string about to snap. Dmitri Petrov's henchman could appear at any moment. "Dad." "Why are we running for so long?" Sophia whispered, her voice trembling. Ethan looked at her, his heart aching. "Because Dmitri is not your father. He killed your mother, using you as bait to lure me. His biological weapon plot targets America, and I am the one who knows the secret." Sophia fell silent, but her eyes revealed a clear conflict. The silver ring sparkled under the weak streetlight, a reminder of a hidden past. Suddenly, she stood up, her eyes lighting up when she saw a public phone booth at the end of the alley. "I have to call Dad. He will save me." Sophia rushed forward before Ethan could stop her. He cursed under his breath, running after her through the sparse crowd. But the narrow alley slowed him down. Sophia picked up the phone, trembling as she dialed Dmitri. "Save me, there's a guy kidnapping me," her voice echoed in the night. Ethan grabbed her hand, pulling her away from the booth. But it was too late. The blinding headlights swept through the alley. A black SUV barreled in, tires screeching on the gravel. Victor Slade stepped out, his black leather jacket gleaming, 2 pistols in hand. "Found you, Black," he growled, signaling 3 henchmen to surround them. Sophia stood frozen, unwilling to leave him. Victor opened fire, the bullet grazing Ethan's shoulder. Blood splattering, he rolled away, using the dumpster as a shield, firing back a final shot from his handgun, hitting one of the henchmen in the leg. The guy fell down, screaming. Ethan charged forward, his titanium hand punching the second man's face, sending him crashing into a broken stall. Oranges rolling everywhere. The third man swung a knife, slashing horizontally. But Ethan blocked it with his prosthetic arm, breaking the blade, then kicked him in the chest, sending him crashing into a lamppost. Unconscious, Victor didn't wait. Lunging in with a series of martial arts strikes, hooks, high kicks, and chokeholds, Ethan countered, his titanium hand blocking a punch, delivering a kick to Victor's knee. But he dodged, stabbing a knife into Ethan's hip, where an old wound had not healed. Ethan roared, flicking out the titanium blade, slashing horizontally, leaving a cut on Victor's shirt. The street fight erupted. Victor delivered a roundhouse kick, hitting Ethan's shoulder, causing him to stagger. But he jumped up, locking Victor in a chokehold, smashing his head into the brick wall. Blood spraying. Sophia screamed. Stop. She picked up a shard of glass, throwing it at Victor, but he easily dodged. The girl is brave. Victor laughed, stepping forward, pressing the gun to Sophia's head. Stay still. Black, or I'll blow her brains out. Ethan clenched his fists, forced to raise his hands in surrender. Victor signaled. Two henchmen jumped out of the SUV, tying Ethan's hands with rope, dragging him into the vehicle. Sophia struggled, but Victor grabbed her hair, pushing her into the back seat. Boss Dmitri wants to see both of you, he said coldly. The SUV sped off, leaving the chaotic alley with shards and blood. Inside the vehicle, Ethan was tightly bound, but his eyes remained sharp. He looked at Sophia, trying to reassure her with his gaze. Don't be afraid. I will get you out of here. Sophia didn't respond, but she clutched her silver ring tightly, as if it were her last hope. Victor, sitting in the front seat, turned around with a sinister smile. You think you're a hero? Dmitri will tear you apart before he touches the girl. Ethan remained silent, but in his heart, he recalled the humane moment in the Mexican jungle, when Sophia first called him Dad. That trust was changing her. From doubt to hope, the vehicle stopped in front of an abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Madrid. The dim light shining on crates filled with chemicals, a sign of a biological weapons laboratory. Ethan was dragged out, his hands still bound, blood from his wounds dripping onto the concrete floor. Sophia was pulled inside, where the smell of chemicals was overwhelming. Victor kicked Ethan in the back, causing him to buckle kneel. Agent. Ethan gritted his teeth, his titanium hand trembling slightly. The rope wouldn't hold for long. He needed the perfect moment to save his daughter. From afar, footsteps echoed. A tall figure appeared under the light. Dmitri Petrov, in a black suit, a wicked smile on his face. Black. You are still stubborn, Dmitri said, his voice low and hissing. But this time, you won't escape. He looked at Sophia, his gaze softening. The girl is mine. You don't deserve to be her father. Ethan clenched his fists, the titanium blade flicking out slightly. The final battle was approaching, and he knew, to save Sophia, he would have to bleed even more. His daughter's trust was now the most powerful weapon, but would it be enough to change everything before it was too late? The darkness of the warehouse swallowed them, leaving only the sound of their pounding hearts. Darkness enveloped the abandoned warehouse on the outskirts of Madrid, Spain, where the pungent smell of chemicals from crates filled with biological viruses mingled with the cold air. Ethan Black knelt on the concrete floor, his hands tightly bound with rope, blood from his wounds dripping from his hip and shoulder onto the ground, creating splotches of red. In front of him, Sophia was tied to a wooden chair, her brown eyes wide with fear, her mouth taped shut. Dmitri Petrov, the crime lord in a sharp black suit, stood in the middle of the warehouse, a wicked smile gleaming under the dim light. Next to him was Victor Slade, the cold-blooded assassin, cleaning a bloody dagger, his cold blue eyes scanning Ethan. "Black, you are indeed stubborn," Dimitri said, his voice low and hissing, stepping closer to Sophia, gently stroking her brown hair, making her shiver. "Sophia is my daughter. Do you think you can steal her from me?" Ethan gritted his teeth, his titanium arm trembling, the hidden blade ready to cut the ropes. "You are the one who killed the girl's mother, Dimitri, framing me in Moscow, now using her to cover up the virus. I won't let you release her in America." Dimitri laughed loudly. Turning to Victor, listen to him. A convict dares to demand justice. Dimitri pulled out a pistol, pressing it to Ethan's forehead. 10 years ago, in Russia, I hired Victor to kidnap Lisa to keep her quiet. But he killed her on his own, ruining the plan. I loved her, but she wanted to take the child away. So I had to act. Victor smirked, showing no remorse. "She was stubborn. Just like you. Black." Sophia listened closely, her eyes wide, tears rolling down her cheeks through the tape. "You killed my mother," she tried to whisper. Dimitri shook his head. "No, daughter. It was Victor. I raised you like a treasure." Ethan roared. "You're lying. You ordered everything to climb to the top of the crime world." Dimitri shrugged, signaling Victor, "Take the girl away. I'll deal with Black." Victor grabbed Sophia's arm, pulling her from the chair, but she struggled, trying to scream. Ethan seized the opportunity. The titanium blade cutting through the ropes, he jumped up, delivering a titan punch to the face of the nearest henchman, sending him crashing into a chemical barrel. Acid splattering everywhere. Victor turned back, pulling out his pistol, firing in quick succession. Ethan rolled away, using a metal barrel as a shield, bullets embedding in it with a deafening clang. The three-way battle erupted. Victor lunged in with a series of martial arts strikes, hooks, high kicks, and chokeholds. Ethan blocked with his titanium arm, countering with a punch to Victor's chest, forcing him back. But Dimitri fired from a distance, the bullet grazing Ethan's ear. "Enough," he shouted, pressing the gun to Sophia's head. "Stop, or the girl dies," Ethan panted, letting go. The blade retracting, Victor stood up, blood dripping from his lip, grinning wickedly. "You've lost." Dimitri stepped forward, looking at Ethan with disdain. "You want to save Sophia? Good. I'll give you a chance." He pressed a button on the remote. A massive conveyor belt started up, pulling Sophia toward the chemical shredder. An old screen lit up, counting down 10 seconds. "Save her. If you're quick," Sophia screamed through the tape, her body being pulled away. Ethan lunged forward, but Victor blocked his path, delivering a kick to his chest, sending him falling back. The clock read 8 seconds. Ethan got up, his eyes bloodshot. "You will pay." He jumped up, dodging bullets from Dimitri, his titanium fist striking hard against his wrist, sending the gun flying. Victor lunged in, stabbing with a dagger, the blade embedded in Ethan's shoulder. Blood spraying, but he endured the pain, flicking out the titanium blade, slicing across Victor's arm. He roared, stepping back. Ethan rushed to the control panel, but it was locked. The clock read 4 seconds. Sophia was close to the shredder, her eyes panicking. Ethan jumped onto the conveyor belt, pulling his daughter out. But the chains were tight. He used his titanium hand to break the chains. The sound of metal snapping echoed, and he pushed Sophia to roll onto the safe floor. The clock ran out, the shredder crushing the wooden chair. Dimitri roared, picking up his gun and firing. The bullet hit Ethan's thigh, causing him to buckle, Victor seized the opportunity, lunging in to choke him tightly. Die. But Sophia acted. She grabbed a piece of metal, striking Victor's back, making him release his grip. Ethan took advantage, delivering a Titan punch to his face, sending Victor crashing into the wall, temporarily unconscious. Dimitri staggered, running toward the exit. But Ethan chased after him, delivering a kick to his back. Dimitri fell, turning back to point his gun. You won't win. Ethan dodged, punching him in the chest, sending Dimitri crashing into a chemical barrel, acid corroding his suit. But he escaped, running off into the darkness. Ethan didn't chase, turning back to embrace Sophia. You're safe now. The girl cried, Dad, I trust you. His heart warmed, but the wounds left him weak. They had to leave before Victor woke up and the henchmen arrived. The virus plot still loomed, and Dimitri had escaped. The final battle in the abandoned factory awaited them. The darkness of the warehouse was heavy, signaling that blood would still be shed. The first light of dawn broke over the sky of Madrid, Spain, casting weak rays through the crumbling walls of the abandoned factory, turning the space into a battlefield stained with blood and dust. Ethan Black stood there, blood soaking his shirt, his titanium arm still gleaming despite being scratched from the battle in the warehouse. Sophia stood beside him, her brown eyes glistening with tears, her hand tightly gripping her mother's silver ring like a talisman. Dmitri Petrov, who had escaped from the warehouse, was now hiding here. This old factory was where he stored the final biological weapons, ready to be shipped to America. And Victor Slade, the relentless assassin, had awakened, his shadow lurking in the darkness. You're safe here, Ethan whispered to Sophia. Pushing her behind a metal barrel, he tightened his titanium hand, the hidden blade ready to spring out. The wind whistled through the factory's gaps, carrying the smell of toxic chemicals and rusted metal. Dimitri stepped out from the shadows, his torn black suit, gun in hand. Black, you chased me all the way here. I will end everything. Next to him, Victor appeared, blood dried on his face, the dagger glinting. Let me handle him, boss. Ethan didn't respond. Charging in like a whirlwind, Victor blocked his path, delivering a high kick aimed at his chest. Ethan dodged to the side, countering with a Titan punch. The sound of metal clashing echoed, forcing Victor back, his arm trembling. Dimitri shot from a distance, the bullet grazing Ethan's thigh, blood spraying. But he didn't slow down. He jumped up, locking Victor in a chokehold, smashing his head into a steel pole. Blood splattered everywhere. Victor broke free, stabbing repeatedly with the dagger, the blade embedding in Ethan's shoulder, pain radiating. You die, Victor roared. The brutal three-way battle erupted. Dimitri lunged in, swinging an iron rod at Ethan's head. He blocked with his titanium arm. The rod snapped in half, then delivered a kick to Dimitri's stomach, sending him crashing into a pile of chemical barrels, acid spraying and creating a cloud of smoke. Sophia screamed from her hiding spot, Dad, be careful. Victor seized the opportunity, unleashing a flurry of martial arts strikes, hooks, roundhouse kicks, and locks. Ethan dodged a kick, but a punch to the chest made him cough up blood. Memories flooded back 10 years of suffering. Losing Lisa, being away from Sophia, all because of Dimitri. You took everything from me. Ethan roared, flicking out the titanium blade, slicing across Victor's arm, blood spraying like a fountain. Dimitri stood up, picked up his gun and fired repeatedly. Ethan rolled away, using a metal barrel as a shield. As bullets struck with a deafening clang, he lunged at Dimitri, smashing his titanium fist into his chest. Ribs cracked as Dmitri flew backward into a control panel, accidentally activating the chemical grinding conveyor belt. The machine roared to life, pulling Dmitri toward the saw blades. He screamed, trying to hold on. "Help me, Victor." But Victor was struggling with Ethan and was too late. Sophia took action. She grabbed an iron bar, ran out and struck Victor hard on the back, making him stagger. "Don't touch my father," she yelled, her voice full of determination. Ethan seized the opportunity, landing a final punch to Victor's face that sent him flying into a wall where his head hit hard, knocking him unconscious. He turned back, pulling Dmitri from the conveyor belt. But the man drew a dagger and stabbed him in the side. Blood spurted. Ethan roared, grabbing Dmitri's throat with his titanium hand. "It's over." Dmitri gave a faint smile. "You win. But my remnants will hunt you." Ethan squeezed tighter. A sickening crack echoed as Dmitri fell dead. The factory fell silent, leaving only the sound of heavy breathing. Ethan knelt, his vision blurring from too much blood loss. Sophia ran to him, hugging him and crying, "Dad." "We won." He smiled weakly. "You were very brave. Now we destroy it all." They set the factory on fire with chemicals. The flames erupted to consume the biological weapons, sending black smoke billowing into the dawn sky. But Victor regained consciousness, staggered away and escaped into the forest, leaving a trail of blood. Ethan knew he wasn't dead, and the gang's remnants would return. The father and daughter left the factory, stepping out into the light. Ethan helped Sophia into a truck taken from Dmitri's men. "I'm going to train you, turn you into a warrior. The threat isn't over." Sophia nodded, clutching a silver ring. "I'm ready, Dad." The truck sped down the empty roads of Madrid, heading for the border. But in his heart, Ethan knew Victor and the ghosts of the past would return. The journey for justice was not over. It had just begun. A new threat from the remnants of the underworld was lurking.